I just looked in the car. Go up and look.
Okay, why are you screaming at me?
Sir,
Yeah, relationship.
When a traffic stop turns into a clash of power, Judge C. Carter Williams uses his title to avoid accountability.
Get the car! Get out the car! Get out the car!
What began as a minor infraction escalates into a battle between law and privilege watch as the scales of justice tip not by evidence but by ego. Back in July 2021, in the quiet roads of West Virginia, Officer Deavante Johnson of the Moorefield Police Department pulled over a black vehicle. Behind the wheel sat Hardy County Circuit Judge C. Carter Williams. The reason, a cell phone spotted in the judge's hand. But what began as a standard stop quickly turned into a study in privilege. Judge Williams, visibly irritated, made it clear he wasn't using the phone, just holding it. Legally, that's a subtle but critical distinction. And Officer Johnson, despite having reasonable suspicion to initiate the stop, suddenly found himself navigating something far more precarious than a traffic code judicial ego. When the officer returned to his cruiser and ran the license, he discovered it had been expired for months. But before he could act on that, his phone rang. On the line was Lieutenant Melody Burrows, off-duty but pulled in by a call from the very man just stopped. Judge Williams had reached out to command staff mid-stop. The message was clear. This wasn't about traffic law anymore. So Officer Johnson, with pressure rising and the chain of command stirred awake, let the judge go. No ticket, no citation. Just a warning and a chilling remark from the judge himself that he'd report any officer he saw on their phone to the state police. When a man of the bench uses his title to bend the rules, meant for all. What does that say about justice from the seat he holds?
Oh, sir. The reason I'm stopping you...
Judge Williams.
Judge.
I don't... Why did you stop me?
You had your cell phone in your hand.
I had my phone like this.
Yeah.
I just lost it. I was just looking for it, pulled it up like this. It was not on it. I just looked in the car. Go up and look.
Okay, why are you screaming at me?
Sir,
you have your license, registration, proof of insurance? You have your license, registration, proof of insurance?
I wasn't doing anything wrong.
You have your license, registration, proof of insurance?
I'm not going to give you my license registration.
You were doing something wrong. You cannot have a handheld...
I had my phone just like this. I was not on my phone.
In what state of West Virginia, you cannot have a handheld cell phone.
What Officer Johnson discovered next should have made the stop more serious, not less. Judge Williams' license wasn't just expired, it had been for several months. That alone could have warranted a citation, even impoundment. But just as the law tilted toward consequence, the phone call from Lieutenant Burrows shifted everything. Within moments, the situation transformed. Instead of enforcing the law, the officer was now walking on eggshells, caught between legal obligation and political pressure. The stop ended not with accountability, but with accommodation. And as Judge Williams drove off unpenalized, he didn't leave in silence. He issued a warning of his own. If he ever caught local officers on their phones, he'd call in the state troopers, not as a citizen, as a judge, as someone above the same rules he just disregarded. What does it say about a system when a seat on the bench becomes a shield against the very law it's sworn to uphold?
Lieutenant Mel.
Who and what does that come back to?
Hold on. Hello? Yes. Oh my God. Okay, well, he's literally just screaming at me and everything else. For no reason. I've tried. He's just screaming at me. And then he said that he reviews or looks at our cases every day and we do wrong, blah 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 blah. So, all right. Okay, bye.
What happened next was not just follow-up, it was orchestration. That evening, the judge wasn't content with just one call. He phoned the former police chief, then again Lieutenant Burrows, and finally he showed up unannounced at the mayor's home, 10 o'clock at night. Not as a concerned resident, but as a man leveraging power in the shadows. No badge, no warrant, just influence. One traffic stop had sparked a ripple that reached through the ranks of the city, pressuring leadership bypassing process and reminding everyone who he was. When the scales of justice tilt not from evidence but ego, who then holds the gavel accountable.
Tell you what, the next time I see any of you on the phone, I'm stopping right there and call the state police. Any of you.
Okay.
This is how I had my phone. I reached down and got it under my seat. I pulled it up here and I was driving like this. I was not talking on it. You can look. You can look when you pull me over. See whether I was on my phone.
Why are you being like this?
I'm being it because I've seen this crap enough. And I'm tired of it.
Here you go. Here's your license, registration, proof of insurance.
Give it to me. Let me have my license now.
Also, you need to go get your license up to date because they're expired, okay?
That evening, Judge C. Carter Williams didn't retreat quietly into the night. Instead, he escalated. First, another phone call to Moorfield's former police chief, then again to Lieutenant Burrows. Not as a man wronged, but as someone reminding the system exactly who he was. But what came next was beyond procedural overreach. It was personal. At approximately 10 p.m., the judge arrived unannounced at the private residence of Mayor Carol Zuber. No appointment, no formality, just power on foot. He wasn't there to seek understanding, he was there to demand it. This wasn't about the ticket anymore. It was about control, about rewriting the balance between law and privilege, about teaching the officer and the city what it meant to challenge a judge. But what does it mean for a sitting member of the judiciary to visit a mayor's home in the dead of night? Not to serve justice, but to bend it. When the scales tip, not because of truth, but because of titles, what is left of the law. Because that night, Judge Williams wasn't just avoiding accountability, he was sending a message.
Can I get a card from you?
I don't have one now. We don't have. They don't give us cards.
Okay, what's your badge number?
1059.
Let me see if I can get my phone.
Hold on, we have cards.
2 days. That's how long it took for the weight of public scrutiny to catch up with Officer David Lance Dukes. Within 48 hours of driving a disabled man's head into concrete without warning, without mercy, Dukes was fired. The Orangeburg Department of Public Safety cited a clear violation of their use of force policy. But policies are just paper until someone bleeds on them. On August 25th, the case escalated. Dukes was charged with first-degree assault and battery, a felony that carries up to 10 years behind bars. Yet as the criminal process crawled forward, something else became apparent. Clarence Gilliard, the man left dazed on the pavement, had not yet filed suit. No attorney press conference, no courtroom showdown, just silence. And in that silence, a question began to echo. What happens when a system removes the man, but not the culture that shaped him?
Where's your ID at?
See, they ask all the questions, but they don't want to answer no questions.
If you fail to identify yourself, you're going to go to jail.
But he's not committed a crime and he's not doing anything wrong. We have the right. We have the right to petition in this country.
Back, you're under arrest.
No, I'm not.
Turn around and put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest.
What am I going to arrest for?
Can I have your badge number, sir?
Hindering and opposing. Turn around and put your hands
Hindering what? There's no investigation because there's been no crime committed. Okay, well, don't play with my rights. I need your badge number.
And put your hands behind your back.
I'm Luan. I live in the front of
you
there.
are under arrest.
I live in the front up there. I just told you that.
Deputy Hamilton, and who are you?
I'm Luan.
On January 2nd, 2021, in Battle Creek, Michigan, a man named Luron Marshall stepped into the cold evening with nothing more than a clipboard and a purpose to organize his neighbors. He wasn't selling a product. He wasn't campaigning for office. He was collecting signatures to form a tenants association hoping to push back against crime and mistreatment in the community. Nearly 100 residents had already signed. But when two deputies approached Deputy Hamilton and an unidentified partner, they saw something else. Not civic engagement, not peaceful assembly. They saw a problem. They accused Mr. Marshall of soliciting. He calmly explained he hadn't asked anyone for money, just their voice. And yet moments later, that voice was silenced, handcuffed, pushed into a patrol car with enough force to make the Constitution wince. He was charged with felony obstruction, but 3 days later the charges were dropped. How did a man fighting for his community end up fighting to prove he had the right to even speak?
You need to go.
No, I don't. I'm waiting on my son. He's my ride back to Wilson.
Leave. Leave. That's the part. Stay. Hey, stop the car. Get the car. Get out the car.
What are you gonna do? You gonna
SD4, give me the radio.
Kenneth Espinosa wasn't part of the traffic stop. He wasn't interfering. He wasn't armed. He was simply a father parked 75 feet away watching over his son. But Lieutenant Henry Trujillo didn't see a father. He saw defiance. The moment Kenneth tried to leave after following the officer's orders, those same officers changed course. Suddenly, they were shouting for him to stay. Then came the stun guns, a barrage of commands, and then force. They tased him, not once, but again and again, until Kenneth was out of his truck, out of control and out of protection. What began as observation turned into punishment. What do we call it when following orders leads to being tased, mistake, or message?
I started doing CPR.
Did you see anybody running, anybody leaving the area, anything?
Not a thing.
Someone relieves him, get a mask.
Not a thing.
Get this guy out of here. Sir.
He's a witness.
What the?
Relax, okay?
We appreciate it.
Huh?
So I got a crime scene, sir. I'm a detective.
Yeah, and I'm here helping him, so step the off. Okay? If you're a good detective, you wouldn't be yelling at me right now. You'd be taking care of your job.
Joseph Garros wasn't trying to be a hero, but when he saw a man bleeding out in a parking lot, instincts kicked in the kind forged from years as a firefighter. He leapt from his Jeep, dropped to his knees, and started CPR on the dying stranger. Then instead of backup came a badge. Detective Chris Rivera didn't ask questions. He didn't say thank you. He ordered Garros to leave. When the retired firefighter hesitated, still mid-response, still trying to save a life, Rivera had him removed from the scene. Dragged from a man dying not because he posed a threat, but because he wasn't part of the system. When did saving a life become a trespass?
No, you need to get your hands on. Really, the paint compliance, that's what we need to do? Because you don't like me talking.
What's his name?
Detective Rivera didn't return to finish a conversation, he returned to assert dominance. As Joseph Gara stood outside the perimeter, still voicing his frustration over being pushed away from a man dying on the pavement, Rivera closed the distance like a storm gathering in silence. There was no warning, no calm de-escalation, just a swift move to punishment. Rivera ordered him into handcuffs. Mr. Garus, a former firefighter who had stepped in where no one else had suddenly found himself being treated as a threat. They restrained him not for what he did, but for what he represented, a citizen who dared to speak back. The officers placed him in the patrol car like he was just another problem to contain. For 15 minutes, he sat there, shoulder-injured dignity eclipsed, trapped behind the glass of a vehicle meant to protect and serve. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't a suspect. He was a witness to something the system didn't want to be reminded of its own fragility when faced with public decency. So when those cuffs click shut, one has to ask, what were they really trying to silence?